bill that protects the future of all students. In New York State, student loan debt outpaces any consumer debt, and more than half of all household debt comes from student loans. This creates a serious financial burden for graduates and overall, which leads to a decrease in economic growth. While students are being left behind, the cost of education in New York State has risen. According to a report by Comptroller DeNapoli, student loan debt has grown to $82 billion in New York State and over the last decade. Because of this exponential cost of higher education, students are now taking longer to graduate. And this is why we are calling for an investment that allows for all state students, including undocumented students, to overcome financial burdens, excel at college, and help boost New York's economy. We simply should not be in more debt before we are even starting to make money. Our package looks at all students, all New Yorkers, who simply wants to go to school without being in debt. CORE builds on the existing TAP structure. TAP stands for Tuition Assistance Program. CORE increases current TAP reward from $5,165 to $6,500. It extends income threshold from $80,000 to $125,000. It extends students with disability into 2 years, graduate students and to undocumented students. And lastly, it creates a $50 million student loan fund from New York State settlement money. Lower income families who simply cannot take off work to go to school will be eligible for TAP. They are part-time parents, they are part-time students, and they are New Yorkers who are trying to hustle, and that's the core of who we are. According to New York State Comptroller's report, 2.8 billion New Yorkers owe student loan debt. 2.8 million New Yorkers owe student loan with an average of $32,000. That's totaling to $82 billion. Over 1 in every $2 we own in student debt is in household debt is student loan. The cost of living in New York City has risen 23%. And New York State, of all states in this country, has the largest income inequality gap. We must protect all students by not putting their future in debt before they start contributing financially to this economy. For our state electeds and decision makers, I want to ask you why you would put the future of our students in jeopardy. Why are we even advocating? Why do students have to advocate for themselves even before they are able to start their own living, start making a living? We are asking for a package that protects all students, all New Yorkers, and I am a proud leader of this movement called CORE. With that, I'm going to introduce Zakia Ansari. She is the Advocacy Director of Alliance for Quality Education. Thank you so much.
Sure. So we all know that those most impacted must be part of creating the solutions. So thank you, CORE, for bringing solutions to what we're around this debt piece. So let me just share. Not only am I the Advocacy Director for the Alliance for Quality Education, but I have 8 children. 6 of them, I just actually sent out a text to what's your debt? How much debt are you owed? And it's approximately, and I want to say and growing, because I have 3 currently in City College, and growing, it's approximately $250,000 between 6 children, right? Some of them are married now, they have 2 kids, one has 1 child, and again, I have 3 currently, 2 in City College, 1 at Mega Everest, so that's growing. We're not talking about inflation, we're talking about what they took out when they started to try to get an education. It is not okay that they are saddled with debt as they try to raise a family and make ends meet. So my work normally is around K-12 education. And often what we're reading and what we're seeing is that we have to read the fine print a lot. So this so-called college-free plan that the governor has, clearly we needed to read the fine print on it. And we shouldn't have to. We have to read it with the Trump administration. There's no reason we should be reading fine print on policy right now. Well, we also have to read the fine print in K-12 and what he's proposing, right? Because the link to getting to a space to even be in providing core is that we are providing resources for our K-12 education. So when the governor proposes and says and uses rhetoric like I put $1 billion into education, what he fails to explain is that out of that is $428 million is owed to foundation aid money, right? $428 million. And currently, across New York State, our children are owed $4.3 billion. So that he is only proposing, I want you to make sure you get this, 1/10 of a dollar of foundation aid. Most of this money will go to black and brown children all across the state. So if you're progressive, then you will put forth a progressive budget, right? So now we have this proposal around college funding. I have 6 children that are saddled with debt and is still growing. There is an opportunity right now for Governor Cuomo, the New York State Legislature, to really step up. Part of protecting children, immigrant students, and others is making sure that they have access to go to the next level of education. And so it is the governor's, as well as the New York State Legislature's obligation to ensure that we are promoting things like this. If I can turn on the TV every day and see Startup New York offering 10 years of free taxes for businesses, then there's no reason I shouldn't be able to see a $50 million loan fund, right, for students to be able to achieve. That's truth. And so I'm just going to end by saying this. We will no longer read the fine print. The governor and the New York State Legislature needs to read the headline. The headline is that children from birth to college deserve access and opportunity. And those most needed are undocumented students, black and brown students, our students with disabilities, our LGBTQIA students need their support. So the headline is, you are no progressive if you're not ensuring that you're providing those opportunities for those very populations of students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Hawk Newsom, President of Black Lives Matter Greater New York.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. I spent almost 2 decades as a student. It prepared me for a life as an activist. Now I'm an educator, I'm a community leader, and as the sister said before, I'm the leader of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. I hail from the Bronx, proudly. Unfortunately, the Bronx has the lowest educational attainment rate in the city of New York. Our children have so many challenges that they shouldn't have to face an inability to go to college once they've overcame those other obstacles. Been doing this work for a while, and I've come to the conclusion that I may never pay off the $200,000 in debt that I've accumulated. It's a harsh reality. I am a single father. I also have another child on the way, and it's hard navigating, the rising cost of New York City. It's hard making ends meet. And then I have to look up and be straddled with this ever increasing debt. I fight for people of all races, creeds, colors, and religions. And I believe that everyone deserves an equal share. That's why I call on the New York State Legislature to close the tap gap. That's why I stand here in front of you, because I believe that these children deserve an equal shot at a better future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are asking for everyone to pass CORE, a comprehensive and a common sense education package. Our next speaker is Josefina. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Josefina Arbaez. I am a member of Mu Sigma Epsilon Sorority Incorporated. I'm also an alumni of SUNY Old Westbury, the State College of the University of New York of College of Old Westbury. I am an alumni, and I owe about $30,000 in debt. I have a degree in criminology, where now I've recently my dreams have been, deteriorating from going to grad school because of my debt of $30,000 that I'm in. And there's not only me, there's so many others, as you can see, that are standing up here who are just like me, who have dreams and goals of wanting to go to grad school, who want to further their education and want to be and make a difference in life it's all comes down to it being dampened because of the amount of debt that we're in, and it hinders us from moving forward. So with that being said, I support CORE because I believe that the education should be accessible and affordable for all of the New Yorkers, and it's time for our governor and legislators to definitely take a stand with us and with our students and invest in our futures, because it's important, because we are the futures. We might have future governors and legislators standing right here, and if you don't take the steps and move forward to helping us and supporting us, then unfortunately they're losing out. So with that being said, I hope that every Greek letter organization out there, they help support CORE, because I definitely stand and support CORE.
What we also want to remind our elected official is that we will vote and we will know exactly what issues they stand on. And with that being said, we are so honored to have New York State Senator Marisol Alcandara here to support us and here to say a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My Chief of Staff, Angel Vasquez, and I have been recently touring public schools in Washington Heights to see the conditions of our public school. We went to the George Washington campus, which houses 4 schools in Washington Heights. The last time the science lab was renovated was in 1962. Everybody knows that you need science, you need the regents to pass, right? And it's a shame that a school that houses over 1,000 and something students, there's 4 different schools, the science lab is not working. The science lab, the last time it was renovated was in 1962. The library in the building is almost non-functioning. There is no music room. I'm telling you that because Broadway, if you're up in Washington Heights, it's like the Soweto, the dividing line between the haves and the have-nots. One part of Washington Heights, the higher part, is more upper middle class. The other part is Dominican immigrants of African descent, where our schools are underfunded. And one of the big things that the governor is big on is the 2% tax cap. And you might think, why is the big deal about the 2% tax cap? The 2% tax cap, that's where we get the money for our schools. And believe it or not, people on both sides of the aisle, whether you're Republican, Democrat, IDC, or whatever, a lot of people supported the tax cap because they come from suburban areas where they get a big pressure to cut their taxes. And this is something that is being pushed on by our governor. Our governor has a college plan that he's pushing. I'm against his college plan because the college plan, you have to take 15 credits. That means that if you fail a class, like I failed my math class, you would have to pay for your college tuition. So what happens to non-traditional students? What happened to people that first language is not English? Or what happened if you just didn't do well in that class and you end up with 12 credits? So if we want free college tuition, to me, it should be free regardless of what people take.
That's right.
Whether you take 6 credits, whether you take 3 credits. If you want to expand the opportunity, you should have it clear and make college available for everybody. That's the only way that we can move towards the middle class. Canada, college is for free, and so are a lot of European countries. And that's why they are doing better, and their people in other countries are living better than in the United States. My husband went to law school. My husband owns over $150,000 in student loan. I always tell him, I wish I knew this before I marry you, because you know what? Every month, clearly, 1,000 and something goes towards his student loan. So if my husband is unemployed, all his unemployment would go towards our student loan. And I told him that because I said, wow, George, I didn't know you were going to be broke for the next 30 years paying student loan. My husband is not on Wall Street. He works for a labor union, right? New York is the most expensive city in the country. We should try to make it better. And if we are going to offer students a free college plan, it should be for everyone. There's this myth that if you're undocumented, you don't pay taxes. Myth, we have to get rid of this myth that undocumented citizens don't pay taxes. And if America is what America promises should be, but we know that's never true. We saw it in the case of slavery, which Ben Carson said slaves were immigrants. They just decided to do cheap labor, right? So it's that kind of stuff that we need to force our country And we need to force our governor to, if you're gonna have free college tuition, make sure it's free. I support the expansion of TAP for one simple reason. In New York State, if you're a union worker, if you're a 32 BJ and you are a janitor, and your spouse is a crossing guard, there you are with $80,000, right? So that means that you don't qualify for a certain amount of TAP. In New York, $125,000 is not a lot of money. Sometimes if your spouse is a DC-37 worker and a bus driver, you make $125,000. That shouldn't disqualify you from getting assistance to go to college. The reason why immigrant comes to this country is to do the job that nobody wants to do, right? We are the farm workers, we are the janitors, we do the construction, we clean people's house, we take care of people's kids, right? So we are the second kind of slave after slavery was quote unquote abolished. We are the ones doing the cheap labor. So the way, if you want people to stay from crime, to come back into society, what better way to make sure that everybody has a college education? We are very much of support. I urge you to call the governor. Call the governor's office, exercise your power. You don't have to be a registered voter, and just say, you know what? We need to expand TAP, and we need to make sure that undocumented students are included. We need to make sure that we put more money into adult education. People always talk about how immigrants don't want to learn English. You want us to learn English? Well, give us classes. People don't go because there are hardly any classes for English classes. So we need to call the governor. You need to call your elected officials and let them know. If you have friends in upstate or in the city, just call the governor and tell the governor that we need to change the college affordability plan to include all students, to include people, workers that want to go back, that are working and cannot afford to take 15 credit. We want to encourage everybody to be the best that they can be.
I found out that their leeway, what they call the 6-month leeway, is that interest isn't charged to you if you don't pay off the loan in the first 6 months after you're done with school. Just think about how easy that must be to just pay $150,000 6 months straight out of school. That's why I support CORE.
So as a senior in high school who is, applying to college, it is absolutely absurd that one of the main concerns I have is financial aid. Whether or not, I'm picking the college that's going to determine the next 4 or 8 years of my life, and the single issue that's going to decide that is how much money are they going to give me. No student should be having to think about this in order to apply to college, in order to get an education, in order to pursue in society. This country needs to understand that once you invest in a student, once you invest in their education, whether it's in high school or whether it's in college, it's only going to benefit the rest of society. I actually work with an organization called Integrate New York City for Me, and what we do from high school levels try to get educational equity because New York City has the most segregated schools in the country. What we need to do is to continue to invest in our education, either it's from K to 12 or either it's from college. As Ivy said, I helped establish the United Students of New York City, and what we are is a collection of over 17 high schools and colleges coming together and really trying to figure out issues of today. And one of the main concerns is education and how education has become under attack in this country. When you invest in your students, when you invest in your college students, high school students, even pre-K or kindergarten, it'll help the rest of society. What Andrew Cuomo needs to understand, what Betsy DeVos needs to understand, what this country needs to understand, is that education is the foundation of what makes us great.
That's right.
Yes.